I know that Kevin Durant wanting to go somewhere is important, but at the end of the day, the Suns still will decide what happens. So I thought it would be a fun mental exercise to list and tier the top 7 teams that we feel like would be the best fit for a Suns and Kevin Durant trade. Now, here are the factors that we're taking into account. A, would Kevin Durant want to go there and re-sign or sign an extension, right? Somebody who wants Kevin Durant long-term and that he wants to be there long-term. 2, do they have enough for the Phoenix Suns to get in return? Those are the 2 big things. Are there any other factors that we want to incorporate here?
Yeah, I think that Kevin Durant has to believe in the vision that the roster has prior to him being there and after he gets there. Because as he detailed last week, he knows that teams have to gut their roster to get him because of his status all-time greatness-wise, but also the number attached to his contract.
Okay, so I'm going to list off all the teams that we've put in this exercise, okay? And then we're going to start with what you guys think should be at the top. So here are the teams that Steven and I came up with last night when we were sleep-deprived.
Okay.
Thunder, Rockets, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Spurs, Knicks, Celtics, Heat, Magic. So we have 9 teams, and we're trying to find the top 7. Out of those teams, Thunder, Rockets, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Knicks, Boston, Miami, Orlando, and San Antonio, what would be the number 1 for mutual interest on a Kevin Durant trade?
That's a good question. I think the Rockets would be up there. I think the Mavs would be up there. I think the Knicks might be a dark horse for me.
For number 1.
Maybe not for number 1, but they would be probably top 3 or 4 in my book, I think. I think all of these teams that you mentioned make sense. I think the
Agreed.
Rockets make a lot of sense on the Suns side because obviously they owe the Rockets, I think, 3 picks, 2025, 2027, 2029. A couple of those are like contingent on pick swap type stuff. But so I think being able to get, but even if you don't get back all of your picks, because Kevin Durant is obviously 36 now, you would at least get 2 of them probably.
Sure.
And maybe some young prospects. So I think it might make sense for most sides. I'm not 100% sold that Kevin Durant would want to go to Houston. Like they could still have a very good core with him there. But I think if you look at some of these other teams, like obviously the allure of playing with Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves would be pretty strong for him. Reuniting with Kyrie in Dallas, that would probably be way into his thinking. So I don't know. Steven, what are you thinking?
As far as number 1,
yeah, let's start with number 1 and work down the list.
Just trying to look at it from his perspective, potentially, I think naturally Oklahoma City, if they're willing to entertain that thought, is the best possible option, both for the Suns and for Kevin Durant. And then after that, Knicks is cool. I don't know if it's number 1 worthy. Dallas is cool. I don't know if they're number 1 worthy. Minnesota is cool. I still don't know if they're number 1 worthy because if you trade for Kevin Durant, what's left over outside of Anthony Edwards, which we talked about last night. So probably OKC and Boston for me.
So I think those make the most sense for KD. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the Thunder, people have brought them up, and I don't know that they're willing to break up their young core for Kevin Durant.
I think you're looking at a lot of picks.
Yeah, they have a plethora of picks, but you still have to make the salary work there. So it's like Lou Dort. You're not getting Chet. You're not getting Jalen Williams. You're not getting Shea, obviously. So I don't know. I don't know for the Suns. A lot of this is going to be contingent on where Kevin Durant wants to go.
Are we okay? Maybe putting the Rockets number 1. Does that feel like the most likely on all fronts? A team that definitely needs a number 1 piece, a good city, a contending city, and they have draft picks and players that the Suns could be interested in. Are we cool with Houston number 1?
I just don't know if he sees the vision with that roster though, and that's my reason why I tiered it off the way that I did.
So it's between Thunder, Rockets, and Knicks.
I think we need to determine which holds more weight, what the Suns would want and which teams would want KD versus what KD would want. Because
I think I'd like it to be what the Suns want, but if the NBA proves really anything, it's usually what the players want.
So we should probably look mostly at least to start for number one at teams that Kevin Durant would want to join. And I think the top ones are probably Timberwolves and Mavs.
Do we think is more likely Timberwolves or Mavs?
But I think that those returns for the Suns are arguably the worst.
Exactly.
This is a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be.
That's a problem.
Yep.
I think.
Can we make a decision and then revisit?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are we good with our pseudo number one spot right now? I want you two to agree because I feel like you two are on different sides right now.
No, I think we're on the same page, but I think it's a matter of like, how are we weighing these? Because if we're doing by KD, and KD is the one that's the star that has the power to kind of push for certain destinations, I think it's like Timberwolves. I think it's Mavs. I think it could be Knicks. Maybe the Thunder are in. He's always spoken fondly of OKC, but I genuinely don't think the Thunder are interested in breaking up their young core.
And I also think, which I mentioned last night too, how these teams' seasons end respectively might weigh or sway themselves into being more interested in KD in the summer than they were in the beginning of March.
How many picks do the Mavs have is my question, because
I'm not sure.
I don't know that they like Derek Lively,
PJ Washington, maybe Daniel Gafford, depending on salary. To your point, Stephen, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. So this will not be the last time we're talking about this at all.
No.
My reason for bringing that up is because obviously Oklahoma City is betting on their internal development and the players that they have in-house right now. Let's say they lose in the second round in underwhelming fashion. I don't think that's realistic, but at this point in the NBA, nothing's out of the realm of possibility, as we've seen. So if they come up short of their expectations, do they stick with the process or do they look to expedite it a little bit more than they did over the past offseason with Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein?
Okay. Let's just, for now, let's start with Dallas. Okay.
I think Dallas makes the most sense if we're looking at how he's chosen the teams that he's gone to.
Sure. And Kyrie is eligible for, I believe, a Supermax extension this summer as well. And I don't know if those two really, they probably do want to play together. I think the relationship is fine. And so that could be the Mavericks star core of the future, of course, alongside Anthony Davis as well. Coming in at number 2 then, are we going to go? I know that Kevin Durant wanting to go somewhere is important, but at the end of the day, the Suns still will decide what happens. I think Houston is just likely because of the ties that they have with the Suns. And I do think that they're good enough. And Ime Udoka is a good coach that I feel like KD would be willing to go there. Maybe not the top of his list, but I think as far as like meeting in the middle of assets and connection and contending, I think that all of those kind of blend together. Are we okay putting Houston 2 for now and then we can revisit?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. So we have Dallas 1, Houston 2. He's just going to go to Texas, apparently. Timberwolves, Thunder, Knicks, and Boston feel like the teams that have been in that next set of teams. Anybody rise to the top to end up at 3?
I would probably push for Minnesota. I think the Thunder could give the Suns the best rebuild package, obviously with all the picks that they have. I think if you're looking at teams that you could get players back potentially that could help you just because you have to match the salary, like Minnesota can give you Jalen McDaniels. They can give you Naz Reid. They can give you Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like they have options there. So at least with that type of trade, you wouldn't be like, hey, Book, we traded KD for a bunch of young players and picks. Give us 3 years and we'll try and like, no, you have a good wing in McDaniels. You have a good big in Naz Reid, that type of thing. So I'd probably put Minnesota 3.
Okay. Are you okay with Minnesota 3, Steven?
Because they have players that have more experience than what they would be getting back from Oklahoma City in the potential trade, I do agree with that. So I think if we're just tentatively doing this list, then I'm fine with Minnesota being 3rd.
Any consideration for Spurs in the top 4 or 5? Obviously you trade for De'Aaron Fox, but you still have draft picks. You still have young players, and you are going to be going throughout the season without Victor Wembanyama, and you never know. Health is never a guaranteed thing. Could they push all their chips in the table and say, we're trying to win now?
Maybe they could. I mean, so it would be probably like Keldon Johnson.
Vassell,
could you
maybe
get Devin Vassell?
I think you just can't get Stephon Castle.
Right. You can't get Castle. It might have to be Vassell just to stack enough salary, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have him like 4 or 5 probably.
Okay. So would you have, okay, this is how we're going to do this. Spurs or Knicks?
Spurs.
Spurs or Celtics?
Spurs.
Spurs or Magic?
Spurs.
Spurs or Heat?
Spurs.
Do you agree with all those, Steven?
Mhm.
Okay, so then the Spurs are going to be coming in at number 4.
Okay.
So let's continue to do that. I'm going to pit them against each
Probably
other.
Thunder 5 for me.
Oh, Spurs or Thunder? That's the one I,
I
didn't
think
ask.
Spurs Thunder 4-5 is fine for now.
Spurs
Yeah.
Thunder 4-5. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
we'll
think
go
that's
Thunder
good.
at 5. All right, so then that's all Western Conference teams, by the way,
Yes.
which means that the Suns will be trading with their direct competition.
Mhm.
So coming in then at 6 is between Orlando, Miami, Boston, and New York. Let's start with New York against everybody. Do you think it's more likely the Suns and Kevin Durant can work out a trade with the Knicks or the Celtics?
I would say the Knicks, just because I think they're more likely to underwhelm in the playoffs this upcoming year, this upcoming season, and that's naturally going to put them in a position to want to reshuffle the deck in some capacity. How long has Kevin Durant been flirted to going to the Knicks?
Yeah.
A long time.
The Knicks feel like a team that is going to come up short compared to the big dogs in the East.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel like a team that's like, we're good. We're right there. If we make a big move, we can get that. Kevin Durant is that exact type of player that I feel like they would be salivating over. The tricky part would be making the math work because, like, obviously OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges would be great, but they make too much money for that to work financially. So it would have to
And
be
they
one
just
or the
traded
other.
a bunch of picks for Mikal. So
Yes.
their pick
So
war
they're-
chest is pretty barren.
Done.
But I do agree that they're likely to flame out. I think Boston's really interesting though. Somebody asked in the chat, and we talked about this. I can't remember if it was on or off air yesterday, but about would you be willing to trade Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown? I mean, it's the easiest yes of all time for me, just considering age and trajectory for the rest of their careers. But I find it interesting if maybe it's a non-Jaylen Brown package. They're probably going to try to get you a Drew Holiday. I don't think they want to break up JT and JB. Even if they don't do well in the playoffs this year, they just won a championship. Jaylen Brown was your finals MVP. So your other pieces, your Porzingises, your Drew Holidays, your Derek Whites, is that more enticing than something that you could maybe get from Miami, or can you get a young piece from Orlando? Those are the 3 teams that are vying for this last spot in the top 7. So it's between Orlando, Miami, and Boston. Is Boston a pretty clear 7 for everybody?
Yeah.
You hesitated on Orlando before.
Yeah, because if you can get a young piece, but you're not getting Franz, you're not getting Paolo. So for me, it's kind of like role players after that.
Contavious, Caldwell, Pope. You are a Phoenix Sun.
Look at how excited we are.
I'll take this little break to thank everybody who's watching us on TV. Remember, the party always continues, including with Gerald's fantastic article that is for diehards up at gophnx.com.
We could finally get Goga Batasi.
Yeah, Goga from the Magic. I think it's between Miami and Boston, and I think Boston has lots of big salaries and a good GM that might look to make a consolidate a little 2-for-1 if they can. I don't know how the math works. I don't know if you could pull it up, but
Miami,
for Boston, obviously Drew Holiday, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. These are the types of players I feel like Boston would be trying to include. I don't know what the math works out on that, but I wouldn't mind, Derek White, Devin Booker backcourt. That would be fun.
Would, but it's tough with Boston because Drew Holiday next year makes $32 million. Kristaps makes 30.7. Derek White makes 28. So you can't combine any of those 2-3 because you'd be going over what Kevin Durant makes.
Do they have a lot of picks, or did they got 2 first-round picks for Marcus Smart? Did they trade those picks to get anybody?
I can't remember.
So.
Boston for me doesn't feel likely just because I feel like there's a very good chance that either they win the title again this year or they get close enough to just run it back with their same core. So I would honestly probably put Boston near the very end of this list.
So we put Miami ahead of them then. Is Miami getting in at this last top 7 most likely spots for Kevin Durant?
I think I would put Miami ahead of them and I don't like a lot of the contracts that Miami has because you're not getting Bam.
Nope.
Like, it's probably a couple of picks and just salary filler, so it's not a great move for you. But the Heat strike me as a team that would be interested, that do need to make a move like that to get better. And that Kevin Durant could see himself playing for the Heat and Heat culture and Pat Riley and all that.
Yeah. But it's just, I see no scenario that makes sense for him in terms of seeing the vision with their roster right now, or for the Suns and what they will be receiving in return for him.
Yeah.
That
Just
makes sense.
More sense than Boston or Orlando. Yeah. Are there any other teams that we haven't brought up that we feel like might be contending for this final spot? Memphis?
Memphis is an interesting one.
But who are they trading?
Jaren Jackson Jr. is up for a contract extension. It would be Ja. It would be Ja.
Ja's not going anywhere, man.
I mean, I know they said that. It would be Ja or Bane, which I don't think they're going to trade Bane. I don't know if you can combine some of their young salaries, some Santi Aldama, Gigi Jackson.
So you're looking at, like, if it's not one of their big three, like their biggest salary on the books for next season is Brandon Clark at $12.5 million. So I just don't think there's not a feasible way without including JJJ or Bane or Morant.
And I think Morant would be the most likely out of all of those, to be honest.
He might be most likely. I just don't see Memphis trading him. I just genuinely don't see it.
There'd have to be another off-court controversy type situation with
the Lakers.
The Lakers.
No.
Get two on-ball creators, LeBron and Luka, and maybe change LeBron for KD, and then get Luka and KD, and then get LeBron to the PHX.
Yeah, no.
Brian asked the most important question. Chat says, "How are we getting Torrey Craig back?"
I already told you the blueprint of making that happen.
That's the real question.
Didn't he get bought out?
He did.
Yeah. He signed with somebody.
He signed with Boston.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah.
That is how we get it back. All right, so we're gonna stick with Miami at 7, even if we don't think that's super likely. But again, 7th most likely is pretty far on the end of the list. Just to recap for everybody listening on audio, and we don't have anything visual with it, so listening on YouTube as well. Number 1 team most likely for Kevin Durant to end up with, the Dallas Mavericks. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Houston at 2. Minnesota at 3. San Antonio at 4. OKC at 5. New York at 6. And Miami at 7.
Yeah, that's fair. We got a couple questions. Denver and Indiana. Thoughts?
Indiana would be what? Siakam?
KD ain't trying to go to no Indiana.
Yeah,
that is fair.
Yeah, Denver's interesting considering the extracurriculars that Kevin Durant enjoys.
So it would be MPJ,
and that's where it stops for me.
Like Zeke Naji, Christian Brown.
It would be MPJ. Are those 3 possible? MPJ, Naji, Brown, because the Naji and Brown are the 2 up and coming.
I think it would be in terms of
and then draft
salary.
So MPJ would be your starting small forward, Naji and Brown off the bench plus picks for your rival in the Western Conference to pair Kevin Durant with Nikola Jokic. That is terrifying.
Maybe you could try to push for Peyton Watson instead of Brown, or maybe the Nuggets would try and give you Durant Holmes.
Hey, remember you guys wanted the hometown kid?
I loved Holmes.
I did too. I actually really enjoyed him. I would hope that he'd be in on that deal, but
after the season-ending injury,
I just don't want. I don't think I want MPJ. I just don't want MPJ.
Man, if you're settling for MPJ,
that's my whole
package.
Like no,
no, thank you. I don't want. The Suns wouldn't want any part of it. I'm just looking at salaries.
Like Denver's
right
already having issues with him ghosting them in meaningful moments, and that's the most valuable thing that you're getting in return for Kevin freaking Durant.
Well, you guys let us know in the comments down on YouTube if